Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button and keep in mind that these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy. All right, folks, here we are after market close on Monday, July 31st. We're going to take a look at SoFi today. As I'm sure you know, SoFi had earnings this morning. This video, just so you're aware, is to update the chart. And as you see, the chart levels held up really well. But if you'd like me to do a video just on literally what came out in the earnings call and some sort of reaction to it, I'm happy to do it. Comment below and let me know. And also, if you'd like to live stream and do sort of like a live YouTube stream for the next earnings call, let me know and I will do what I need to do to get that on the books. All right, so here we see this level, right? This $11 level. We have it in as 11.16, but that played a really big role today, as did this 9.19 level. You see here in the pre-market, it gapped up, right, as the pre-market opened at like 4 a.m. and then climbed a little bit, filled that gap really quickly with some big down candles. Obviously, this is the 10-minute. Just to take a look at today, 927 was what we came down to. So pretty tight in to that 919 level. Came up, came through this 985, came down and confirmed it. And then big push. And where did it bump its head? Right around that 1116 mark. And what did it do? It tried to climb it and it tried to push off of it, made it all the way up to 1170, came down and just wrestled. And then kind of just building a support level and then pushing off that a little bit as we went into close today. So really happy with how these levels played out during the day, especially on such a dramatically hectic day of price action and volume as we see on earnings days, particularly with SoFi. Now, let's zoom back out and see what levels come now. As we spoke about before, and I will flip over to the Thinkorswim chart as well in a moment. I'm going to extend this. As we had spoken about before, there is this uptrend, which now it's sort of very much leaving behind. But as we know, there can be reactions, sort of secondary reactions off of days such as today. And so I'm going to leave these there for now. They may act as important levels, but there's, sort of a bit steeper of a trend line here that we might as well put in because now we have this gap, right? And the question is going to become, is this gap going to get filled anytime soon? So let's put a box there for now. And, I have to remember, where did the boxes go? There we go. Let's put a box in here that'll last for a few days, and then we can always update it as we need to. And just say, hey, there's a gap here. Let's just kind of be aware of it. What's not going to be totally intrusive. There we go. So we can kind of see it, but it's also kind of invisible. So we'll leave it like that for now, just to say there's a big gap there that could play a role. So levels from this point on, what are we going to do? Hopefully you say scroll left. All right, so we're going to scroll left to see the last time we were in this $11-ish range. Here we are. And let's see if we passed through this a couple of times previously. Not really. So let's start with some of the most obvious ones, even though they're going to be a little bit further away, and then we'll tighten up as we go through the chart. So I would say it's not really here. I'd say it's more here because you see catching the floor here, a near miss there, and then really here it tried to catch this big steep fall. Was that way back when the unlock happened? 2021? I think maybe. I don't recall, but that may have been a reaction to that earnings. But in any case, really strong, steep sell-off. Tried to catch it there and even tried to push off. Came down and wrestled with it for several days before it sort of gave way and confirmed it as resistance here. So to me, that's just shy of $14 level. It's pretty important. Now there's not a ton of price action in this range, unfortunately. Just going to make it a little bit more difficult. But here's one. We'll put the levels in and I don't want to pretend that it might not just be basically on the dollars and on the 50 cents, right? Those psychological levels that we talked about before. You know, your 1150s, your 12s, your 1250s, your 13s, that sort of thing. Because, yeah, if you look at the previous price action, I mean, you're catching a bunch of attempts at support, give way to resistance, retake as support, give way to resistance, reconfirm as resistance. And those are just sort of happening at, you know, the sort of pure level that I'm putting it at 1208. But again, it's going to start really feeling that pressure around 12. 1298, it's going to really start feeling that pressure near 13, 1395, 14, so on and so forth. But beyond that, there's not a ton of activity to sort of draw on that's not above that, say, $14 level. So we'll leave it there for now to the upside. And let's see how cluttered it would make the chart if we tried to put some in based on today's 10-minute activity. So let me get out of here and just focus in on sort of pre-markets and then today, because really that's after hours activity last Friday. We could chalk that up to this 985 level. Might be a little something here, right? You see this 944, this interesting topping out versus then building a floor from which it sort of pushed off of. So we could put that in, but again, you know, not to sort of like overly emphasize the exact chart, but you know, it's just shy of the 950. So this is me sort of poo-pooing the charting that I'm doing while I'm doing it. But you know, just keep in mind that's sort of like it's not at all magic is the right way to put that. 1136. These are going to be more daily levels for now, so I'm going to kind of dash them because they might not be as strong as these solid levels. Because again, these solid lines come from the daily chart, and so there's just a lot more oomph behind them. And so these ones that kind of come more from intraday levels, lower time frames, I'm going to say that they could be, for the time being, weaker. Now that could certainly change over time as it comes and passes through again and again these price levels, but you just sort of need more data, you need more passing through these price levels. And then it's probably worth always a little nod to, hey, it couldn't push over this 1170 level. And yes, I know that's at 1171, but you get the point. It was doing, yeah, I mean, I was going to say it was doing a little bit of an uptrend here, but I'm not going to put this in, and I'll sort of show you why. It's like a one confirmed trend line, and these tend to, in my opinion, cause more problems than they solve, because you don't really know if this is ever going to reconfirm again. It could like just spread further away from here. It could fall right through and just never hold again. So a one confirmation trend line is really, really hard to base much at all on. So these are the levels that I would look at. Let's do a quick recap, then we're going to go over to Thinkorswim and see where things stand on that chart. To the sort of nearest in levels, nearest into 1145, we have this one here, which 1156, 1136. So that's sort of the up or down. Are we going to be able to get through 1156 and build through resistance there to support, or are we going to fall through 1136? And if we do fall, 1116 is the next level down. And then just so we don't have such an extreme drop to the downside, we should put in some levels here. We might as well acknowledge this $11 level because it wicked down there. And this is going to end up to be a bit longer of a video, I'm realizing, but hopefully that's okay with everyone. This 1042-ish level, it might have been decent volume because it's pre-market on earnings day, but who knows? That's both sort of just intraday and is pre-market, so just be aware of that. 1075 could be psychological-ish. 75. So chart starts to get very cluttered very quickly, right? But as these sort of dotted lines get bypassed or sort of give way to the solid lines, we can clean it up. And so hopefully it doesn't disappoint you to have more levels on a chart than less. I know it can, like, again, just seem busy and cluttered, and that can be hard, but you know, however you want to work it. Now let's flip over here and let's take a look at Thinkorswim. So and then let's go back, because I don't think that I recapped the levels to the upside. So I have too much PTSD from SoFi falling. So on the daily, if you're not familiar with Thinkorswim daily, here we pushed well off the upper bound of this channel that we're in. And if there's something that we just historically can, again, not know because we can't predict the future, but if we can just sort of like be aware of how historically the price action moves, if it breaks out of the channel, it can have a nice sustained move up. But then what happens is it can or will often retrace at least to the mid line of the channel. And so then you could, you have this nice, say, 100% move up. I'm not saying the stock changed 100% in price, but I'm saying if we just say that this entire move up accounts for 100% of a move, and then you might give back about, 40 or 50% of it if it draws back into the center. So just be aware, there could be some increased volatility, which shouldn't be a shock based on basically a 20% price move today. But when that comes, we don't know. This sustained outside that upper bound for quite some time and didn't draw down for a while. So that's the other question. But we are outside the channel, so just be aware of that. As you see, it spent quite a long time in overbought territory. And as you see, based on this TTM squeeze indicator, it was triggering for 4 of the last 6 trading sessions prior to this sort of firing. And now, is this firing just starting to kind of take shape and really take off? Don't know. It's a little bit out of a setup. It's not super clean, but neither was this one, which just had one day of a trigger and then an extreme fire, whereas it had all of these days in a row triggering, and then it fired, and it kind of didn't do a whole lot. I mean, maybe if you caught sort of some moves in there, it was something, but that was, again, sort of a confusing play out of that indicator. So take all these things like with a grain of salt. Hopefully you know by now, none of these things are magic bullets. None of them are sort of a genie coming out of lamp and just being able to predict the future. It's just take the totality of the information, do the best you can with it. Trade your trade, no one else's, of course. So it's a bit unclear to me. I'd be interested to see how this plays out. It's seeming to want to ramp back up, but we don't know. That's sort of the question at the moment. If we want to go to a slightly lower time frame, let's see what something like the 30-minute looks like. It sort of drew back into the channel. Mid-channel here sits at about 11, right? So that wouldn't be shocking if it kind of came down to 11, tried to build some support and rock back off of that, something along those lines. As we lower the time frame, it might get more and more into the channel. Let's see. Yeah. So it's certainly more and more into the channel the lower the time frame you go. So depending, again, on what your strategy is for trading and what the point of your trading is, it might look just a bit different to you. So let's just quickly recap the levels to the upside in case it does continue to push, again, like we saw here, outside of the channel, and continued to push before it drew back toward the center of the channel. So to the upside, I have 1156, like we talked about, 1171 or 1170. At 71 would just overcome this most recent topping out. 1208, which again might act suspiciously like 12. We're going to have to scroll back to get these to show up. Oh man, look at how cluttered this gets. Okay, so just 2 additional levels, 1298, aka 13, 1395, potentially aka 14. So those are all the levels, and again, hopefully you got the grasp of why some are dashed and some are solid, and this sort of is interesting as you try to, again, fill in your own chart and trade it the way that makes sense to you based on what's important to you. All right, folks, I hope you had an exciting day today. Again, comment below if you want to live stream the next earnings, and or if you want me to do not a chart video, but in the coming days, do just a rundown of the numbers and kind of my 2 cents on what those numbers could mean as we go forward. All right. Thanks a bunch for watching, and I will see you in the next video.